Welcome to Net Zero. I'm Ana Hanhausen, a climate activist from Mexico and a member of the POP movement. Climate change is an all-encompassing crisis that has become even more apparent in recent years through extreme weather events, food insecurity, conflict, and unstable economies. Urgent and effective action is imperative, and education plays a key role in ensuring we make correct and science-based decisions to lead us to a sustainable future. Today, we will be speaking to Ana Pons about how global education initiatives can shape the next generation of climate leaders and advocates. Ana Pons leads global initiatives at the OECD Doctorate for Education and Skills, promoting evidence-based practices in teaching and learning. Her expertise spans education policy, equity, and innovation. Ana spearheads projects like Global Teaching Insights and Schools Plus Network, fostering collaboration among educators worldwide to enhance student outcomes and address pressing challenges, including climate education. Ana, thank you so much for joining us. This is definitely gonna be an interesting conversation with you.
Thank you very much, Ana, for the invitation. A pleasure to be here.
How can schools worldwide teach about climate change in a way that inspires students to take action?
I think it's this taking action. What we see is that being critical at the OECD. You know, the OECD is an international organization, and what we actually do, our work, our job is to measure what works in education and to bring governments around the table to discuss about effective solutions. What we see is that climate education has been in school curriculums in many countries since the 1980s, so already 40 years back. But what we see is that being in the curriculum is not enough to really empower students to take action.
What's the best way to help students understand the science behind climate change?
What we learn by asking and engaging with teachers from different countries in a campaign that we ran with Education International, the International Union of Teachers, as well as with UNESCO, is that it's very important to actively put the students at the center of the learning process and to engage them in a variety of different teaching methods that might be different from the traditional teaching methods, and that include more exposure to experiential, inquiry-based, service-based, and embodied pedagogies to really focus on those activities that can put students at the center and help them unleash their creativity to problem solve so that they can either individually or collaboratively work on solutions from different angles to local problems.
How do you think schools can encourage students to make environmentally friendly choices in their daily lives?
If we really want to empower students, we need to think of ways to really make climate education a transversal subject, to teach them across age groups and across subjects. And this doesn't mean as well to simply have one very nice school-level project in which students can join and learn about climate matters. This really means about thinking of ways to teach it in every subject, whether it's history, whether it's language, whether it's maths, or whether it's geography. And one of the things that we see in the PISA surveys is that individual and collective school-level attitudes to climate are also very much related. So those schools that are or that have more stronger approaches to climate education, we also see that in these schools, students tend to have greater attitudes or positive attitudes towards sustainability and climate matters.
What skills will students need for jobs in a greener economy, and how can schools prepare them?
What researchers seem to say is that there are no green skills per se, but that we certainly need to attract students to work on solving these greater challenges that our world is facing, which is climate change. So we really need schools can do to prepare students for these jobs and needs of the economy and help students develop this nuanced understanding of the science that is underlying climate change and its consequences, help students develop strong creativity and critical thinking skills, which will be critical to actually assess and generate new ideas that can support mitigation, adaptation, and action on climate matters, and of course, raise awareness and interest towards STEM subjects, which will be critical for this transition.
I completely agree, especially how you mentioned that it's important to help the students develop critical thinking and creativity, because maybe we don't know what additional environmental issues they'll be facing in the future, but if we equip them with critical thinking, they'll be able to solve them rather than just equipping them with the necessities for today's problems. Can you share some examples of schools or countries that are doing a great job at teaching about climate change, and what can we learn from them?
If I had to mention three that really touched me, where there was a teacher from Spain, which is the country where I come from, that had actually found a way to recycle masks. So remember that during the COVID times, we were all wearing this mask, and this was like a huge amount of waste that we generated. So she had found a way, and with her students, she was actually disinfecting this mask and recycling this mask and turning them into folders that the students could use. There was another teacher from the US, I think her name is Nita. She's a mathematics teacher. And one would think, what does mathematics have to do with climate change? But she had managed to put into her courses teaching of food justice issues, how climate is going to affect the fairness of the distribution of food. And that was very interesting because she showed how you can teach fractions, ratios, and decimals, while at the same time empowering students to be more aware about these climate issues. There was also a teacher from Singapore that he had run a very interesting initiative in his school where the entire school was attuned to climate matters and where students really experienced and had the opportunity to breathe all of these climate choices. So that was also another interesting initiative, but there were many, many, many of them. So it's really hard to pick. It's not simply about learning about something, being able to recitate that in the exam, but it's really being aware of these issues in a deeper way, in a way that empowers the students on choices that they can make in their daily lives, both in a school and outside of a school. And that's really the challenges that most education systems are struggling with.
Well, thank you so much, Anna. This conversation was truly invaluable for us. You taught us a lot, and I'm very, very excited to see how this initiative keeps impacting many schools and teachers across the world. It was very inspiring too and enlightening to hear you speak.
Thank you very much, Anna, for having me. And we are certainly as well very much inspired by all the actions that the students are taking all around the world, again, showing the way on this really challenging issue on what is that we can do to really improve our futures and save our world. So it was great to be here and share some of the research that we've done at the OECD.
Thank you so much, Anna. And just to close, this is climate activist Anna. I add my voice to the voices of my net zero international youth peers to monitor the action of our world leaders to achieve their net zero commitments. Together, we can achieve net zero.